Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to Weekly Wildlife Wisdom. So far, I've been your host, Jeyawati, and happy Dinosaur Day. Today, we're going to be focusing on the Moreno Hill Formation, which is a Cretaceous formation of what is now New Mexico. Beginning with the first animal of the week being Nothronychus, which is a genus of therizinosauride theropod dinosaur. Lived in North America during the late Cretaceous period, some 94 to 89 million years ago. The first fossils, now known of Nothronychus, were discovered by a team of paleontologists working in the Zuni Basin of New Mexico at the Haystack Butte site, Moreno Hill Formation. A therizinosaur ischium, or a hip bone, had originally been mistaken for the squamosal bone, or part of the skull crest, of the newly discovered ceratopsian Zuniceratops. However, upon closer examination, it was revealed that the true identity of the bone, and soon more parts of the skeleton were found. The New Mexico team, led by paleontologists Jim Kirkland and Doug Wolfe, published their find in the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology on August 22nd of 2001, making it the type specimen of the new species Nothronychus mckinleyi. Markinlei. The generic name Nothronychus is derived from the Greek nothros, meaning slothful, and onyx, meaning claw. The specific name McKinleyi honors rancher Bob McKinley, on whose land the fossil findings were made. The holotype specimen now consists of a partial skull, some vertebrae, parts of the shoulder girdle, a forelimb, a pelvis, and the hind limbs. A second, more complete specimen was discovered in the trophic shale of southern Utah in 2000 by Merle Grafham, in an area that would have been part of the Western Interior Seaway, indicating that this Nothronychus specimen likely had washed out to sea before being preserved. Today, two species are considered valid, in McKinleyi and in Grafhami, reaching around 14 to 17 feet, or 4.2 to 5.3 meters in length, and weighing around 1,800 to 2,600 pounds, or 800 to 1,200 kilograms in weight. Nothronychus was a medium-sized therizinosaur. Nothronychus had a pot-bellied abdomen, long neck, and stocky hind limbs with four-toed feet. The arms were relatively large and dexterous, and hands equipped with up to 30 centimeter or 12-inch long curved and sharply pointed claws on their fingers. In addition, the tail was reduced in length but more flexible. These herbivorous theropods would have browsed the trees and shrubs of the Moreno Hill Formation alongside various dinosaurs like Suskityrannus, Zuniceratops, Jeyawati, and some unidentified ankylosaurs. Next up is Zuniceratops, which is a genus of ceratopsian dinosaur lived throughout what is now southwest United States during the Turonian stage of the late Cretaceous period, some 91 to 88 million years ago. The first known remains of Zuniceratops, consisting of a skull and some postcranial remains of several individuals, were discovered in 1996 by 8-year-old Christopher James Wolfe, the son of paleontologist Douglas G. Wolfe. The Moreno Hill Formation in west central New Mexico. This would turn out to be a rich Zuniceratops bone bed. The name Zuniceratops means Zuni horned face, which is a reference to the Zuni tribe of Native American Pueblo people named to the Zuni River Valley of the region. The species name Christophori is reference to its discoverer. In 2001, a bone believed to be a squamosal of Zuniceratops has since been found to be the ischium of the therizinosaur Nothronychus, reaching around 7.2 feet to 11.5 feet, or 2.2 to 3.5 meters in length, and around 386 to 992 pounds, or 175 to 450 kilograms in weight. Zuniceratops sport a large skull, which is long and low with no nasal horn, but bears a pair of well-developed brow horns that are similar to those of chasmosaurs and primitive centrosaurs. These and other traits show that Zuniceratops is an example of an evolutionary transition between early ceratopsians and the later larger ceratopsids that had large horns and frills, supporting the theory that the lineage of ceratopsian dinosaurs may have been North American in origin. Next up is Edowa, which is an extinct genus of Banaid Paracryptodorian. Not quite sure how to pronounce that word. A turtle, which lived throughout southern Laramidia, what is now the southwestern United States, during the Turonian to the Carnassian stages of the late Cretaceous period, some 92 to 88 million years ago. The first known remains of Edowa, consisting of a partial skeleton, including large sections of the carapace and plastron, or the upper and lower shell of the turtle. Excuse me, that was my finger that popped. Were discovered in the Moreno Hill Formation, the Zuni Basin of western New Mexico in the late 1990s, during an expedition led by Doug Wolf, James Kirkland, and volunteers with the Southwest Paleontological Society. However, the creature wouldn't be formally described until 2023, when Arizona State University PhD student Brenton Adrian found and identified a very old turtle fossil that was in storage at the Arizona Museum of Natural History. Adrian, with the help of his colleagues Heather F. Smith, Kara Kelly, and Douglas G. Wolfe, described and named the animal Edowa zuniensis. The genus name Edowa is the word for turtle in the language of the Zuni indigenous peoples of the western New Mexico and eastern Arizona. The species name Zuniensis refers to the Zuni Basin, where the species lived. A phylogenetic analysis shows that Edowa is sister taxon to the more numerous and better understood Plesiobaena antiqui, and likely would have looked similar. Reach around 8 to 18 inches or 20.3 to 45.7 centimeters in shell length. Edowa sported a slightly domed shell, large limbs, a crushing beak, and a long tail. Interestingly, the type specimen of Edowa appears to have been attacked by a crocodilian of some sort. Next up is Suskityrannus, which is a genus of small tyrannosauroid theropod which lived throughout southern Laramidia, which is modern-day southwestern North America, during the late Cretaceous period, some 94 to 89 million years ago. The first remains, now known to belong to Suskityrannus, consisting of a partial snout and some postcranial remains, were found in 1998 by Robert Denton, a professional geologist from Virginia, and Sterling Nesbitt, a native Mesa-teen, who was a museum volunteer that came to dig with paleontologist Doug Wolf. Until more remains were recovered, these remains were variously attributed to a dromaeosaur, a more generic coelurosaur, or a tyrannosaur, with several informal names being given to the creature over the years, including the Zuniceratops, the Zunityrannosaur, and Zunityrannus by the 2011 documentary Planet Dinosaur. Following the discovery of an initial specimen consisting of a partial skull and postcranial skeleton, the animal was formally described as a genus of primitive tyrannosaurid, Tyrannosauroid, in 2019, which is named Suskityrannus hazeli. The name Suskityrannus meaning coyote tyrant from the Zuni word Suski meaning coyote. And today, both the holotype and paratype specimens are located in the collections of the Arizona Museum of Natural History. Reach around 9.8 feet to 11.5 feet, or 3 to 3.5 meters in length, and around 276 pounds, or 125 kilograms in weight, Suskityrannus was a small tyrannosaur. Granted, both the holotype and paratype belonged to young individuals that didn't quite reach skeletal maturity. I'm used to saying sexual maturity for the living animals. But the histological analyses revealed that the bone tissues and vascularization are different from those found in young individuals of large-bodied tyrannosaurids during the Campanian Maastrichtian age. So the adults would have been significantly smaller than later mature tyrannosaurids. Jeyawati is a genus of hadrosaurid or hadrosauroid dinosaur lived throughout what is now southwestern North America during the Turonian stage of the late Cretaceous period some 91 to 88 million years ago. The first remains of Jeyawati, consisting of a partial skull and incomplete skeleton, were discovered from rocks of the Moreno Hill Formation of New Mexico in 2006 by paleontologist Douglas Wolfe, who unearthed the animal with the help of James Kirkland and volunteers from the Southwest Paleontological Society. Over the next 4 years, the remains would be prepared, studied, and examined by Wolfe, Kirkland, and lead author, then undergraduate geology student, Dr. Andrew T. McDonald, who formally described the creature as Jeyawati rugoculus, with Jeyawati meaning grinding mouth in the Zuni language, a reference to the sophisticated chewing mechanism of hadrosaur dinosaurs. The second part of the name, rugoculus, comes from Latin words meaning ruga and oculus, meaning wrinkle eye, describing a unique feature of the new species. One of the bones that forms the eye socket exhibits a peculiar rough and wrinkly texture on its outer side, suggesting that Jeyawati rugoculus may have sported one or more large scales above and behind the eye. Reaching around 13 to 20 feet or 4 to 6 meters in length, 6.5 to 8.2 feet or 2 to 2.5 meters tall, and around 1,300 to 2,400 pounds or 600 to 1,090 kilograms in weight, Jeyawati was one of the largest animals of the Moreno Hill Formation, but on the smaller end of hadrosaurs. Jeyawati was more ancestral than similar hadrosaurs, like Shugameosaurus, Telmatosaurus, and Bactrosaurus, but more derived than hadrosaurs like Eolambia, Probactrosaurus, and Protohadros. Okay, let me just see if we're still recording. Good. So these next two picks may be a bit controversial. You can give me flack about it if you guys want. There is some indeterminate ankylosaur and crocodiliform remains known from the Moreno Hill Formation, but these aren't attributed to any specific genus. So I'm going to give two genuses of creatures that lived kind of around the same area at around the same time. Starting with Peloroplites, which is a monospecific genus of Notosaurid dinosaur that lived throughout what is now the southwestern United States during the Cenomanian to Turonian stages of the late Cretaceous period, approximately 98 to 92 million years ago. The first known remains of Peloroplites, consisting of a partial skull, was found by paleontologists Burge and Bird in 2001 in the Cedar Mountain Formation of Emery County, Utah. However, it wouldn't be formally named or described until 2008, when Kenneth Carpenter, Jeff Bartlett, John Bird, and Reese Barrick led a dig back to the original site and excavated more of the skeleton, as well as some additional partial specimens, which combined give a greater understanding of the animal. The holotype and assigned specimens are currently housed at the College of Eastern Utah Prehistoric Museum in Utah. The name Peloroplites is derived from the Greek word peloros, meaning monstrous or gigantic, and hoplites, meaning heavily armed. The specific name Cedar montanus is derived from the Latin words cedrus, meaning cedar, and mont, meaning mountain, in reference to the Cedar Mountain Formation of which the fossils were discovered. Since then, several other partial specimens have been recovered, and it has been suggested that some of the large notosaurid material from the area previously assigned to the genuses Sauropelta and Hoplitosaurus may actually belong to Peloroplites. If the material does belong to Peloroplites, it would extend the stratigraphic and temporal range of pleuroplites considerably. Reaching upwards of 20 feet or 5 meters in length and 4,410 pounds or 2,000 kilograms in weight, pleuroplites is one of the largest known nodosaurids. It came from a time when ankylosaurids and nodosaurids were obtaining larger sizes. It sported a wide but squat body, large sturdy legs, and although pleuroplites lacked a tail club, numerous large spikes studded its shoulders and ran down its sides and tail. The snout of pleuroplites tapers down at the front and is not as broad as in other ankylosaurs. Whilst further back there were rows of small teeth, the front of the jaws were toothless and would have been covered by a down-turned beak. And next up we have Bernissartia. Is an extinct genus of Neosuchian crocodiliform that lived throughout what is now Europe and North America from around 130 million years ago to possibly as recently as 81 million years ago. The first remains of Bernissartia, consisting of a remarkably well-preserved skeleton with associated armor and skin, was unearthed in the Sante Barbe coal mine in Bernissart, Belgium in the early 1880s. The specimen would be named and described by Belgian paleontologists and notably one of the first paleobiologists, Louis Antoine Marie Joseph Dolo, in 1889, who dubbed the animal Bernissartia fagesii, with the genus name simply meaning of Bernissart, and the civic name honoring the mine's director Gustave Fages, who, along with the miners Soher, Sonnet, and Despois, recovered the specimen. Since then, numerous remains of Bernissartia, including skulls, fairly complete skeletons, and more partial remains, have been found throughout Belgium, Spain, France, the British Isles, Croatia, Sweden, Canada, the United States, and possibly Tanzania. Reaching around just 2 feet or 60 centimeters in length, Bernissartia is one of the smallest crocodiliforms to have ever lived. It resembled modern species in many respects, and was probably semi-aquatic. Bernissartia had two distinct types of teeth. The front teeth are sharp and pointed, and would have been used for biting onto small slippery prey, such as fish. The rear teeth, however, were more round and blunt, and more suitable for crushing prey like shellfish, crustaceans, as well as cracking into bones. Some Bernissartia remains have been found in association with the remains of the ornithopod dinosaur Iguanodon, raising the possibility that they may have scavenged the carcass of a dinosaur that had drowned or died along a riverbank. As always, take care to my guys, gals, non-binary pals. Hope you have a wonderful dinosaur day.